Heart-centered?
Heart-centered living.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Zoom link and everything is on there.
Okay, thank you.
And we're doing one Saturday. Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Okay, perfect.
Yay.
Okay, so yeah, we got a full house now, so I can hear. Hold on one second. Yeah. Yeah, okay. If it's not going into just turn it off. Yes. Yes. Okay, I think that echoes. You got to turn it off, buddy. Just turn it off, because. Thank you. And if you want to just, that's okay. Because we were trying to have it so that it didn't, go on your external speakers. It would just go into your headphone. And because it's not going to work. All right. So, Mom, would you mind starting us off with the opening prayer, please?
Oh, I never mind that.
Opening prayer and a brief meditation.
Yes. So I invite all of you, my beautiful brothers and sisters, to join me now in this powerful moment of perfection. And join me in becoming one in spirit at the core of our being. That at the time that we connect with infinite presence, we connect with each other. And in this oneness, we join this collective energy for the upliftment of the world and all within it. And we come to this place in gratitude, absolute gratitude, gratitude for everything, whether we understand it or not. For all that occurs, be it considered good or considered bad, is in divine order, unfolding according to a divine plan. It is purposeful and has meaning. And so we allow ourselves to align with this power that flows in and through each of us and all of us collectively, that we may follow that divine will for our lives and for this evening's Course in Miracles. That we may tap into the deepest places of our being to call forth and grasp the concepts we are about to hear, share, and take in for ourselves. And we are so grateful for this opportunity. We are grateful for each energy cell that is present in this moment, joining collectively to uplift all of us and the world in for ourselves. And we see perfection. We see the divine good that always was, that is here right now, and is ever unfolding and evolving in our lives and in the world. And so we allow ourselves to take in this powerful energy, this perfection, this divine goodness. and rest within it for a moment in the silence. And we are so grateful for this time we have spent with you, beloved presence, where we could feel that connection with you and each other. Continue to lead, guide, and direct us that we may be the healing light for the world, that we may lead the way and invite others to join us for the healing of all humanity and all of the world, for the upliftment of our consciousness, that we may shine the light of love, harmony, peace, and perfection upon every living thing on this planet. And holding within our hearts, I am that I am. Let us say silently within our hearts, I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. For it could not be otherwise. And we thank you in the name and after the nature of our elder brother, wayshower and master teacher, Jesus the Christ. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen.
And while we are still resting in the beloved silence and peace of the meditation that we just received, let us begin our opening prayer to begin this meeting. I am here only to be truly helpful.
I am here only to be truly helpful.
I am here to represent him who sent me.
I'm here to represent God who sent me.
I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do.
I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do.
For he who sent me will direct me.
For God who sent me will direct me.
I am content to be wherever he wishes,
I am content to be wherever God wishes,
knowing he goes there with me.
knowing God goes there with me.
I will be healed.
I will be healed.
as I let him teach me to heal.
As I let God teach me to heal.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Amen and a women.
All right. Okay. So who do we have on here now? We've got Susan, we've got Dari, we've got Deb. All right. We've got Sandy, Andy, we've got Moshe. All right. All right, so we are on God of the Ego, chapter 11, God of the Ego, is it part 4? Part 4? No, hold on. Yep, part 4. The inheritance of God's Son, or it could be part 5, just depending on what version of A Course in Miracles you have. And we are starting on paragraph 5. And let's see, I believe that Sue
Could
was
you
I'm sorry?
repeat where we're at? I'm kind of lost.
Yes, we're on page 201 of the text, chapter 11, God of the Ego, part 4 or 5, the inheritance of God's Son, paragraph 5. Starting off on paragraph 5. And on paragraph 5, it starts off, and if you all don't mind muting yourself, one moment, let me go ahead.
I have that we finished paragraph 5 and we're at paragraph 6.
All right. So I'm going to mute everyone, and if you need to unmute yourself because there's something playing in the background, and I want to kind of get that out of there.
Even I have that we finished paragraph 5 and we're at paragraph 6.
Yes, we did do paragraph 5, but we ran out of time. We didn't really get to really discuss it so that's why I wanted to kind of go back to paragraph 5 again. I believe even though Elise is not on right now, Elise had some questions about paragraph 5, and so I just kind of wanted to run over paragraph 5 again. Not as in depth but we didn't really get to really consume it or assimilate it. That's why I want to start on paragraph 5. Sue, have you found it? All right. Sue, would you mind unmuting yourself? I have everyone else muted so that they could get rid of some of the background noise that I was hearing.
Okay.
All right. Sue, do you mind? I'm sorry,
No,
go
I
ahead.
don't mind, but I want to let you know I'm new at this, so I'm not going to probably have comment. But do you want me to just read the one paragraph, or do you want 2 paragraphs?
Just that one paragraph, and that's only if you don't mind.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Okay.
If your brothers are part of you and you blame them for your deprivation, you are blaming yourself. And you cannot blame yourself without blaming them. That is why blame must be undone, not seen elsewhere. Lay it to yourself, and you cannot know yourself, for only the ego blames at all. Self-blame is therefore ego identification, and as much an ego defense as blaming others. You cannot enter God's presence if you attack his Son. When his Son lifts his voice in praise of his Creator, he will hear the voice for his Father. Yet the Creator cannot be praised without his Son, for their glory is shared and they are glorified together.
All right. Thank you, Sue.
Sure.
And Sue, I just wanted to say that even if you just began to read A Course in Miracles yesterday, anything that comes to you, if something does come to you, I want you to invite you not to feel any intimidation or fear in sharing it, because what comes to you is very important to us, because it actually gives us an idea of this same paragraph from your point of view that we never would have had otherwise. So, but that's not to put any pressure on you.
Okay.
That's just to let you know, that it is okay to say whatever comes to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Not a problem. And does anything come to you from that paragraph?
Just the word blame jumped out at me because I've worked really hard to stop that habit over the past few years, and I've done better, but I do still catch myself doing it. So I'd like to hear others' take on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you. Thank you. And you know something? When we read this Thursday of last week, we didn't really focus on blame. We didn't really focus. So I'm glad that we have something else to focus on now. So does anyone want to answer Sue's question? Does anyone feel inclined to expound on that area of, I can see my mother is raising her hand and getting excited. So please, Mom, unmute yourself and what'd you say? Let me unmute you. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mom. You're muted.
So the interesting thing about the blame game is that there's only one of us. And therefore, when we do the blame game, we're blaming ourselves. And so when we see the perfection in whatever is occurring, even if it doesn't feel good, or if it's not fun, or if it's not exactly what we wanted, when we see the perfection in it, then our eyes are opened to the purpose of that particular situation occurring in our lives for our higher evolution in consciousness. But when we play the blame game, we're blaming ourselves technically because there's only one of us.
Okay. All right. And Sue, to expound on there's only one of us, because you stated that you just started reading A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles teaches that we're all connected, basically. So it teaches that God only recognizes one son. So when you heard my mother saying that there's only one of us, she's referring to how God sees things in the absolute. Even though we have all these personalities and things like that, when it's like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Son represents all of us, not one individual personality or one individual being that walked the earth, whether it's now or 2,000 years ago or 4,000 or however many years ago. So it's referring to all of us as the Son or as the sonship. So that's how A Course in Miracles refers to us. So when my mother was saying there's only one of us, she's saying that from a standpoint, a Course understanding standpoint, that God only recognizes one son. So if one son is saying something against another son, or one member of the sonship is saying something against another member of the sonship, they're only saying that about themselves. So if you're blaming someone or judging someone or pointing the finger at someone or anything like that, you're only judging and condemning yourself. In other words, everything that you send out as far as, to what you think is someone else is really judgment against yourself, is what A Course in Miracles teaches. So I just wanted to kind of expound on that because I understand that you just started reading A Course in Miracles. All right. So does anybody else want to expound on any part of the blame part that Sue brought up? Bill?
Yeah, I when I used to do the course, or not when I used to, but at one point I used to see things like you blame them for your deprivation. And, you're blaming, that word deprivation. Like, what's that talking about? It's somebody's depriving me of something. Somebody's taking something away from me. And I used to consider that to be like something material. Somebody's taking something from me. But what it's really talking about is my mind. Anytime I'm upset about something and I think somebody else did it, I'm blaming them. Like the basics of the course in lesson 5 is I am never upset for the reason I think. And anytime I'm upset, the first thing I the first thing I've always done was look out there at something in the world and say, that's why. That's I'm mad because whatever, or and I never knew that it was my erroneous beliefs about who I am is why I am upset. And so that upset, you know, so that just that word deprivation, I think it's really talking about, it talks about other parts of the course. We think that people can steal heaven from us, you know, that because when I'm at perfect peace and I am at perfect happiness and joy, I'm not thinking of blaming anybody or myself. But when I'm not, it's somebody's fault and it's not mine. And so if I could look at myself and not to blame myself, like it says there, but where did I make a mistaken perception? And it comes back to forgiving myself for just forgetting who I am, what I am, part of all and eternally safe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Let me rename myself here. Hold on one second. Anybody else? Oh, I need to rename. It just says A Course in Miracles. I'm gonna rename that. Yeah. All right, there we go. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Yes, Sandy. You have to unmute yourself.
So I'm having a really hard time today.
Okay.
In terms of what's going on in the world and what the course teaches.
Okay.
When I see long lines of people who are not eating basic, they're not even worried about shelter. You know, you're getting food first for their children. Words won't come. In terms of the course, the suffering, I want to say is real. I'm hesitating because it's not real because we made it all up. But do you see that dilemma that my head's exploding with looking out there at what's happening and reconciling that with not only what is mine to do, but I don't know, but what? I don't even know what to say.
Okay.
So intellectually, in my heart, I believe the course. I hear it. I feel it. That's why I'm here. Try not to say but, Sandy. But suffering is pervasive, not only in our country, all over the world. And then the other things that happen that are corollary to what seems to be the most prevalent thing, but those things break my heart. The young man in Georgia, I just don't have the words to express the depth of how I feel about this. So I'm just really having a hard time tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Sandy. And it looks like my mother has something that she wants to say. Let me unmute her. Hold on one second. Go ahead, Mother.
My heart is very closely connected to yours right now, because I've been struggling with this one. And, you know, as a minister, I work very hard to stay away from blame or judgment and so forth. But what happened to the young man, and I'm just having to be honest with all of you. Most of you know me, I tell the truth. It brought back the days of being cursed at and demeaned, diminished, and demoralized because of my Black skin. And that was a kind of lynching that was done to us frequently. And what happened to this young man brought it back, because I came up in stark segregation in the South, and was called, you know, nigger at every instant. Just being very honest with you all. And it really brought it back. I have been praying and affirming and doing denials and affirmations, and asking to be lifted out of this judgment, because I do not want to express this. I want to contribute to the peace and the love and the joy that is being called for right now. But I have to be honest with you, is that really hurt me. It broke my heart. I wanted so much to believe that consciousness was on its way out. And I am really grieving with you, my sister, because I understand. I truly do. And please forgive me, everybody, but I needed to say this, because I feel that way as well. And thank you for being honest.
Okay. All right. So I don't really, know what you all are referring to, but now I'm beginning to piece together what has occurred. And I'm really don't want to focus so much. I want to talk about it. I do want to talk about it, but at the same time, from a standpoint of consciousness. Now, it's important to understand that the type of consciousness that perpetuates these sorts of atrocities or acts or loveless acts is a consciousness that does not love itself. This is not to justify anything. What you will hear coming out of my mouth is no justification, but I'm just saying it is a consciousness that does not love itself. And that's all I can actually say without actually getting the specifics as far as the particular situation. But consciousness, acts that are loveless are perpetrated by those who do not love themselves. Whatever that loveless act is. I don't have to know the specifics. I wrote about this in, just this during the spring semester of ministerial school. I wrote about this and how the consciousness because it's an idea. And so those that embrace these ideas, and then perpetuate these loveless acts. They perpetuate these loveless acts because they, in fact, do not have love for themselves. So with that in mind, again, the important thing is from a ministerial standpoint, as far as a ministerial student, you don't want to disregard any type of group of people that are being impacted by these things. But I still have to have a global understanding of the cause behind it all. You know, I could, you know, focus on the act and focus on the act and focus on the act and get angry and riled up and things like that. You know, or I can focus on the cause behind it, minister to those that are affected and impacted by it, in a way, as far as that is compassionate, whether it's you know, my you know, quote unquote social group or not, minister to those that are impacted by it. Okay, and then pray for the consciousness that does not love itself. Okay, because that is still, whoever is the perpetrator of this loveless act is still my brother and sister. It's still my brother and or sister. Okay, so you know, I can't lose sight of that behind the actual loveless act, you know, and then start pointing fingers and things like that. So, you know, I do have to look at it from that standpoint, that this is a brother, you know, a brother or brothers and sisters who are in some kind of way in pain. They don't love themselves. And so what can I do about it from that standpoint, as far as, you know, there's a number of different ways, you know, to look at it. Number one, you know, ministering to those that are impacted by it, but also what can I do about those that don't love themselves? What can I do as far as, you know, to help them understand that they are more than this. They are more than what they're actually displaying as far as these loveless acts. And that, you know, what is it that I can do as far as to be able to share with someone like that? And I don't know. It kind of brings up a blank. So I know what the cause is, you know, but at the same time, as far as to heal it from the causal level, I'm still working on my understanding of healing from a causal level. So,
But we still have to feel our feelings.
absolutely.
And that's important. You know, that's what I teach. That's what the
Mhm.
radical forgiveness. The first thing you have to do is to acknowledge what you're feeling instead of suppressing it, choking it down. So you feel your feelings.
Mhm.
And then once you do that, then you begin to shift and you begin to understand that the person who committed that was in pain. They were hurting. And so at that point, you do the forgiveness work for that brother, because as I said, there is only one of us.
There is
We
only
are
one.
all one. And so then I have to forgive myself as well for any consciousness that I have held to this degree that contributed to this particular consciousness. But I have to do the forgiveness, but I have to feel my feelings first. Because if we swallow those feelings, they're going to show up at a later time and really wreak havoc on mind, body, and spirit. So we feel those feelings. We let the tears flow. Whatever it is we need to get out. And then we take a deep breath and then we send that love to that person who must be hurting so deeply within themselves that they would commit an act of that nature to themselves, because what they believe they're just hurting another, but there's only one of us, so they are hurting themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, it is definitely crucial to feel your feeling, to feel your humanity, and not to suppress it. I believe that what we are seeing as far as manifesting in the world today on many different areas, many different fronts, is a result of suppression, is a result of non-acknowledgement or pretending that certain things don't exist. So, yeah. So Carl Jung taught it, he taught about the shadow, and whatever you suppress as an individual, it begins to manifest as a shadow. It begins to manifest in different areas. So, and it's the same thing with the consciousness in our society. Things that we suppressed as far as not wanting to, thinking that we had, come to a point where, racism is gone. It's a thing of the past. Let's sweep it under the rug, things like that. The only thing you do with that, see, society is the same, is going to be impacted in the same way as an individual is going to be impacted if they attempt to sweep things under the rug. You just see, only thing you're going to see is just a collective manifestation of a shadow, which is going to be different events like the one that we're talking about that I don't know anything about. Okay, so that's the result of suppression. So absolutely do not suppress on an individual level. And as far as society, it's important that as a society, we don't suppress things, because we'll just continue to see more and more inevitable manifestations of a shadow that comes from these suppressions. So a good book on that I read is Carl Jung, The Psychology of the Unconscious. So by Carl Jung. It's an old book. Sometimes it can be terribly boring at times, but at the same time, it's very good and very enlightening on the aspects of the human psyche. So back to paragraph 5. Are there any other parts of paragraph 5 that we wanted to discuss before we move on to paragraph 6? Anyone?
I think related to, all this on forgiveness or blaming, it's, it's everything that is this tells us, which is related to this crime. Also, and all the things that are the result of this split mind, this disconnection from the truth, is these are all expressions of our split. This is the horrible result of this dissociation and this split between all of us that we have to repair. And if I can see that every, that these are parts of me that I need to reconcile with, literally, there are parts of myself that I need to embrace and talk to, if that's whatever it takes, and to ask the Holy Spirit's guidance to how to come back to this part. And maybe that's saying no to it. This is not okay. What you're doing to our unity, to our love, to the truth, to speak to it, and to become a way of it. Whatever there's to start talking somehow as a group. This happening already, where we're consciously becoming more united in love, and that will eventually speak to all of us, because love, it's just you can't resist it when it really gets spoken, when it really, so it's just a matter of I think it's really trying to work with ourselves ultimately to do our part in that healing within our own, whatever we're not wanting to be connected to any brother or sister. And I find I can't do it without the Holy Spirit's, asking for help. There's just, that makes it a lot easier if I just ask and and let go, and then it kind of comes to me a new way. So from all kinds of places. So that is really helping me want to learn more. Once that love gets a hold of you, you just want to keep going, don't you? It's just a matter of I mean, it has to happen. And when that's what this is all about, is anybody who's, it's just a distorted call for wanting God. Anything that's harm is a distorted request for help me. I don't know what to do with my craziness. And it takes so many twisted, painful turns. Anyway, I'm trying to learn that's what's going on because
Right.
it's
All right. Thank you, Susan. And I believe, hold on. I believe Karen has a question. Sorry. Yes, please, Karen. I saw your hand and I didn't respond in time to prevent someone else. So
No problem, Stephen. I wanted to address what Sandy said and Sheila. Sandy, my heart hurts too. And what I wanted to say here, several points actually, from the readings. These readings to me is like we should accept God into our heart, into our soul, so that we reflect his light. But as we do that and become the light, then I'm wondering if we should not shine that light. And just as there is light and goodness, there is also evil. There is also evil. And so therefore, I think as a person shining a light, you also have to shine the light upon the darkness that sometimes exists. And with regard to racism, this is what I want to say. I grew up on an island and there were no Black people. But in the 60s, I did see on TV the walk across the bridge. I forget which bridge it was. And I can remember, it almost makes me cry actually to think of it. But I can remember seeing people just walking peacefully and dogs and all sorts of things. And I can remember asking my mother, what are they doing? What is this about? And must have been a hard thing for my mother to try to explain. But as a kid of 10 years old, just looking at that, I knew that something very bad, very not right was happening. And that's all that I want to say about that.
thank you for sharing that, Karen. I appreciate that. And I want to, I'm sorry, you about to say something else?
I guess all I was going to say to end it was that as we bring the light into our heart and we have that light and we have that love, then I think we really need to raise a collective consciousness by using our light and using our love. So the higher we can raise our level, it's like, we're supercharged flashlights or something. But I think we need to shine light on darkness. I don't think we can ignore it, and we have to be the light. So I guess I'll just leave that there.
Mm-hmm. And so, no, again, we've seen, and I'm sorry, did you have your hand raised, Deb? Okay. Did you have something you want to say? Go ahead. You want to unmute yourself?
I want Sheila and Sandy for their vulnerability and their truth, and that I have a lot of empathy for all African Americans. And I just wanted to share a perspective from someone that wasn't born here and had to learn and understand the African American experience, growing up in a consciousness of I'm Black, but I'm free, and I've never had this experience growing up. And one thing that I came to the understanding was, and Stephen touched on it, that there's been a lot of suppression of the consciousness of African Americans, consistent suppression of the power of the mind. And I think somewhere in, of course, the Miracles, and maybe Bill might know where it is, it talks about right-mindedness. And that right-mindedness is how you start the process of healing yourself and your brother. And I just had this conversation last night with a friend of mine where we're talking about the same topic. And I said, the thing that it starts with is the forgiveness and slipping into the right-mindedness. One group has to do it to get the other group to see it and shift and heal. And I'm not saying it's something that's going to happen tomorrow, but just from the way I grew up, I saw that right-mindedness within my own culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with, and I've always said this, if African Americans could collectively shift their consciousness, a lot of things would probably start to move. And that's as we walk into the world, as Karen was talking about, with that light, that power, that right-mindedness, that oneness, that atonement, it starts to attach itself, has so much power.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just something I just wanted to share from an observational point of view, you know, of having to learn why it was so different here than how I grew up, and feeling the pain of this collective group of people that is just consistent. But it takes a powerful mind to move things. And if the mind can shift, everything can shift.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna touch on that, but first I'm gonna somebody had their hand raised. Gundry, she had her hand raised. So, hold on one second. Go ahead.
Hello, I just wanted to add to what Deb had to say. Deb, we're fortunate because I grew up in New Orleans, and but I grew up when I went to school, grade school. It was the first year of integration, so I grew up with Black and white people playing together, and I was fortunate. And I've always known that I was fortunate because, of course, my mother's generation and all of that, they really had to work on the separation consciousness. I think that as we shift our minds, it's important for the Caucasian and the Hispanic and the African American to stand together. It's not just going to be the people of color. It's got to be those of us who are willing to walk down the street across the Selma Bridge together. It's got to be that. It's got to be what Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi did. We have to be able to acknowledge the pain, feel the heartbreak, and then forgive the darkness in ourselves that wants to lash out, that wants to point a finger somewhere. Forgive that, and then stand together to change the consciousness. We have to stand up together.
Thank you.
All I have to say.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And here's what you had something you had to add.
Basically, it was a little bit like what she was saying. Because since we are all perceiving this is not just about African American. It is about the consciousness of everybody.
Right.
And I think that we all collaborate on that somehow. So it is, so basically what she was saying, you know, so we all need to raise our consciousness, not just one group.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was also going to say that that's also something that I wrote about in a paper that I was talking about. The challenge, what challenges us as a society, what challenges us as you know, different ethnicities, different groups, are when people feel that by reaching across the divide, that they're somehow marginalizing themselves by reaching across the divide. So for example, African Americans believing that by reaching across the divide to see how they can work together with people that are not African Americans, that they're somehow marginalizing their beliefs. So that's the challenge. And so we have to look past that marginalization idea. Keep in mind, that is an idea that comes strictly from ego, brothers and sisters. It comes strictly from ego, that idea that, well, you know, if I'm somehow reaching out, you know, that's somehow minimizing or diminishing, you know, the fact that I was wronged or something like that. You know, so people feeling like they're being marginalized by, like Deb was saying, and like Dondre was saying, by reaching out and seeing how we can work together to bring about love and peace. What tests us, however, is the marginalization idea. For just lack of a better word, we'll just call it the marginalization idea, that people feel that by reaching across that divide, that racial divide, that they are somehow marginalizing things that have happened to their communities, things that have happened to the life, as you know, life the way they know it, and things like that. So these are all very good, very powerful conversation. So we don't have anything else to discuss. Let's we can move on to number 6. Deb, you
I just wanted to say one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That in those food lines, there are all kinds of people. They're Caucasian people. They're everyone. And I also, in order to bring it back, to go to the introduction, the course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, because that's beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And I just, since I derailed this conversation, I wanted to bring it back to the Course in Miracles, that what we're doing here is removing those blocks to love's presence.
Absolutely. We are definitely doing that. So, all right. So I tell you what, this has definitely been a powerful first half. So we got a couple of more minutes where we can just at least discuss it for a little bit longer. Let's go on and read paragraph number 6. Who was next on, I believe, on Zoom? Who was next on Zoom? It was after Sue, I believe. Deb, Deb was next. Deb, do you mind reading paragraph 6, and we'll start discussing it and then finish discussing it after we take our break?
Says, fear is always a sign of strain, arising whenever what you want.
Where are you, Deb? Because
oh, sorry, that's 5, 6. Sorry.
Christ is at God's altar.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in like another group's lesson. Sorry. That's what I get for cheating. I was looking for right-mindedness. Okay. All right. Christ is at God's altar, waiting to welcome his son. But come holy without condemnation, for otherwise you will believe that the door is barred, and you cannot enter. The door is not barred, and it is impossible that you cannot enter the place where God would have you be. But love yourself with the love of Christ, for so does your Father love you. You can refuse to enter, but you cannot bar the door that Christ holds open. Come unto me, who would hold it open for you, for while I live, it cannot be shut, and I live forever. God is my life and yours, and nothing is denied by God to his son.
Thank you. So, Deb, what does that say to you?
Well, I really like, I think it's number 4,
Mhm.
where we're encouraged to love ourselves with the love of Christ. For so does your Father love you.
Mhm.
God is my life and yours, last line, and nothing is denied by God to his son. That to me, that's an invitation to no matter what I am told, no matter what someone says, no matter what someone tries to impress on me, that I have the power to love myself. That invitation keeps me sane, literally.
Mhm.
And then God is my life. And I kind of feel like that. We were discussing that in spirit groups, how that's the only we only have one relationship, and it's really with God. And everything else we experience life and other relationships in reference to that relationship. So it's like I take that last paragraph especially very personal,
Mhm.
and I hold it very dearly because it keeps me in the right space most of the time. It brings me full and center whenever things happen that would make me believe that I'm not loved.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, that part jumps out at me as well. You know, I'm always, talking about the way is loving yourself. You know, the way the world that you desire to see starts with you, starts with how you see yourself. And so, I say love every aspect of yourself, even the aspects that you feel are less than. Because I know I say less than, but let's just be honest with ourselves. We have ascribed certain values to certain attributes to ourselves. Like we say, okay, well, these are my strengths, and these right here are the things that I'm working to improve. Okay, well, you've already said that those things that you're working to improve are less than what you've already classified as strengths, whether you said less than or not. Okay. So what I talk about all the time is love every aspect of yourself, everything, because you really don't know, these things that you may be ascribing a less than value. You just don't know how much of a virtue it really is. If it wasn't a virtue, it wouldn't even be. If it didn't serve a purpose to the sonship, it would not be. It would not be there. Okay. So every single thing that you have within you, it still serves a purpose to the sonship. Purposes that you may not understand. I've already talked about how Donald Trump and all of the things that other people want to talk about are his flaws serve the purpose for me. Okay. Serve the purpose for me that led to my growth. Okay. Now, did Donald Trump know that some of these qualities that led to my growth? Did he have a conscious awareness of it? Probably not. Probably not. Okay, but it still didn't change anything. Didn't change a thing. Didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. And just like Donald Trump probably does not have a conscious awareness of how there's certain aspects that, whatever temper tantrums he has and things like that actually got me to really start looking at myself and saying, why am I feeling this about Donald Trump? Why am I getting so upset? Which led to phenomenal healing within me. Okay, so it still served a purpose to the sonship. That's the point I'm trying to make. So why judge it? Why judge it? If there was still a lesson and a healing, how is it not good? See, we have a distorted understanding and view of what good is. Okay, we have an egoic view of what good is. Okay,
We have an idea that stems from the ego of what good. We're so sold lock, stock, and barrel on what good and bad is. We don't even know ourselves. We don't even know. So that's why I say to all of my brothers today, anybody who will listen to me, just rant and rave about it. Like when I get on my soapbox and start telling people to love themselves and stuff like that. And I say, hey, love yourselves, because everything that's about you is what God created to be, and therefore it's perfect. It serves a purpose. You just don't know what it is. You don't know the purpose that it serves, but you know something until you do know the purpose that it is. Just suspend that. Suspend that egoic idea that you have and just love yourself anyway. And you will begin to experience an inside out healing. You will begin to see a loving world, and people will begin to say about you, what's gotten into you? Have you read any books or something? Have you attended any classes or something like that? What's going on? You just seem like you're so loving now and stuff like that. And the only thing that happened was you began to love every aspect of you. If God created you, how could God create something that's not perfect? Now, you feed all of that information into a computer, and you don't have a problem if you feed it to a computer. A computer will crunch those numbers dynamically and say, therefore, I am perfect. But with humans, it still does not compute for some kind of reason. I don't understand that. If God is the creator of perfection and God made me, I must be perfection. I don't understand that. Why does that not add up to perfection in the human mind? In a computer, if you feed that same thing into a computer, it will say, then I am perfect, period. But with humans, it does not compute. So I'll get off my soapbox now. I'll get off my soapbox. And are there any other parts of paragraph 6 that we wanted to discuss before we go to break? Yes, Zeba. Yes. Unmute yourself, please.
Hi.
Hey.
Yes, there is the number 2.
Okay.
But come holy without condemnation, for otherwise you will believe that the door is barred and you cannot enter. What is important here to me is that he's saying you will believe that the door is barred if you come with condemnation. So if I think, condemnation, like, if I condemn someone
or yourself,
if I blame someone or myself,
yep,
or myself,
mm-hmm.
Definitely, then the effect of that would be that I would think that the door to get me to God is closed.
Exactly.
But that thinking is wrong. It's just the effect of me, condemning one of us.
Exactly. Absolutely. Because what will happen, Zeba, is you will experience the effect of that condemnation of yourself or someone else. It is exactly what I'm talking about right now when I say ascribing less than values or less than views on yourself, as far as in seeing yourself anything other than perfect, which is what A Course in Miracles says. I don't know how many times. I think there's maybe about almost as many instances of that we're perfect in the Course in Miracles as there are in where it talks about forgiveness, which I believe A Course in Miracles has over 700 instances of forgiveness in it. Okay, so if A Course in Miracles are saying over and 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 over that we're perfect, it's saying that so that maybe at some point it'll begin to dawn on, maybe I'm perfect, I don't know. Maybe I'm not, because, A Course in Miracles knows that it has to get through a lot of egoic consciousness. A lot of it go in consciousness. So it says over and over and over and over and over and over to forget. Okay? Why? Because hey, we need that repetitiveness. It says over and over and over and over that we're perfect. Why? Because we need that repetitiveness. Okay, but yes, thank you, Ziva, because when we start ascribing condemnation, which is the same as, like I said, less than values, thinking that you don't quite make it, you don't quite add up, you're not quite good enough, maybe thinking that a future you is what you need to be. You know, I just need to read a couple of more books and but you know, a future you, where you're ascribing salvation to a future you. No, it's you right now. Right now, you are enough right now. And as you begin to see that, you will begin to transform. You will begin to experience transformation, because now you're good enough, you're enough, you know, and God loves you. And so people will begin to feel the energetic effect of that type of consciousness. They will begin to feel it all around you. People that come in contact with you, they'll begin to feel it and experience it. You just have to convince yourself. And I believe Mose talked about this one time. It was, I don't know which Thursday it was. I watched these Course in Miracles meetings and I get notes from everybody. And I believe Mose was talking about this one time. She was saying, you know, just like we have it's easy to believe the negativity about people. And if we hear it over and over and over, that's why it's important to continue to say the positive over and over and over and over again, so that eventually we will begin to believe. We'll begin to believe those positive things, that I am perfect and I am more than enough right here, right now, and forever. So we are going to take a break, an 8-minute break. So restroom break, water break, coffee break, snack break, whatever kind of break you want to take. And we will be back in 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I'm going to mute everybody. Yeah.
Hey Siri, set a timer for 8 minutes.
Okay, we are back. Got some cookies over here. All right. Close this out here. Okay. All right. All right. So we were just reading paragraph 6, so there's still a lot of meat left on here. So does anybody else have any additional interpretations to paragraph 6? Remember, we're all muted, so if you have something to say, please unmute yourself. Yes, Bill.
And we were talking a little bit about the love of God. It says here, for knowing that your Father loves you, and it talks about the love of Christ and this word love. And it reminds me, like that kind of love is something that we don't have any kind of human experience of, not because we tend to always, when we hear that, refer it back to something in our past, and it was like this or it was like that. And that, like, we go back to some kind of reference point, but it's something so far beyond that, I think, which someone mentioned, is in the very first page. It's beyond what can be taught, but this course is aimed at removing our obstacles, not to its presence, but to our awareness of its presence, which is, because it can never not be present.
That's right.
So, and I think I was thinking back when we were talking just a minute ago, this longtime course teacher, very well respected, he said, you'll never understand what the love of God means unless you realize the love of God is the same for Jesus as it was for Adolf Hitler. And boy, that shook me to the core. When I read that, I was like, what is he talking about? But something like spirited, something in me knew it was true.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel it, but something in me knew it was true, and so, like, if love's presence is here all the time, it can never be absent. Love is synonymous with what God is, what we are. It's just what is. It says it's the only thing that's real. And what is, and what is real can have no, what is all encompassing, it calls it, can have no opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Only in our deluded minds do we think there's an opposite to it, and thereby have some type of experience of that, but that just, so, we were talking earlier, and basically, the stuff in the world and all, we got upset, right? And so there's something we're not aware of love's presence at that time, right? And what, boy, I'll tell you, there's nowhere in the course that talks about denying how we feel and our upsets. The course is all about looking at them. And I forget, somebody told me, but somebody counted how many times in the course it says look. You talked about forget. It says it, if you pay attention as you're going through the thing, and it says look, it's asking us to look and to see these things in ourselves. And the course says, its whole purpose is to heal our mind, so we can live it with the peace in the kingdom of heaven. That was Jesus's whole message in the biblical times. The kingdom of heaven is within you. But we don't experience it most of the time. That's just a state of pure love, And so when I'm upset, there's two things I could do. I could say there's something in me that needs to be healed, or something out there that needs to be changed. That's why I don't have peace now. And the course, I think, if I read it right, says, that's what I do. I shouldn't speak generally. I take it, what is it in me that needs healing? in my mind. What do I believe?
Yep.
There's a mistake I made. It doesn't make me guilty of anything. But
Mhm.
boy, it's really worked wonders in my life. Because even like doing a course for a number of years, I used to always think, boy, but this is an exception. I am upset because of whatever, you know.
Mhm.
That's that the ego loves that because
Mhm.
it'll keep us from looking at it and
Mhm.
feeling at the mind, you know. And I don't know. I just thinking about the love of God. Sometimes I get teary eyed thinking, you know, because it's not an intellectual process. It's a feeling. It's just it's something beyond words, you know, and it's something for us all. That's what the course is trying to get us to do, is have that experience of, you know, lesson 189 is I feel the love of God within me, you know.
Mhm.
You know, we all hear those words, I love the love of God, God loves me, all that, but when you really feel it, I just cry sometimes, you know. It just gives me goosebumps all over. So I don't know what that had to do with what we just read, but something in me needed to say it.
Okay, that's all right. All right. So, anybody
Yeah,
else before we move?
I
I'm
think,
sorry.
I think, Bill, that what I experience, what you're saying is when that happens with me, it's like when I want to please God, the more I know God, the more I actually become pliable to its wish. Like I feel that happening with me with this and that feels good. Like that's what I feel I'm supposed to be doing. What I want to anyway, that wanting, the more I feel the love of God in me, it makes me want to be more like it, or you know, to do what it's saying because it makes sense.
All right. Well, thank you, Susan.
Can I say something, Stephen?
You sure can, Karen.
I just wanted to say that the Greeks divided love. They said there's 4 kinds of love. And the love I think that we should have in our heart is agape. And agape is an intuitive love for what is right. And so I think it's incumbent on us to always shed our light and our love from that loving place.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Thank you. That is the as far as if you were to, you know, create classifications of love, that is the love for all, you know, without there being a specialness or, you know, a special love or something like that, or love that has to be excluded or exclusive for just one person and one person alone and things like that. Yes, as far as that is our way of describing it. In this plane, love is just love. Okay. It can't, but in this plane as far as describing it, we have different, you know, variants or types or agape and things like that. Just like, you know, there's only one presence, one power, which is just God. You know, that's all there is to it. But in this plane, we have the Father, we have the Son, and things like that. So yeah. All right.
I also think when talking about loving God or God's love, you know, that's really wonderful, and I would much prefer to focus on that, but he's really asking me, you know, if you love me, you got to love all those people out there. All these people is part of that, and in fact, that's like how you do it, is you love these people. And so that's really the work, is getting ourselves to be able to do that, you know, to be able to actually do what Jesus did, and not really go by our eyes, to use the Holy Spirit to show us what that love is to others.
Maybe Sheila could answer that, because I'm wondering if that would be another kind of love. If there are people doing evil things, you know, should we have another form of love, which is like kind of empathetic because they know not what they do? I don't know.
Well, love is just love. As far as love in the relative, as far as ways of expressing love, compassion is one way of expressing love. If you, looks like my mom is muted. Looks like she had something to say. Hold on one second. Hold on. All right, you're unmuted, mother.
So the agape love can be held even when you are feeling hurt or pain about something someone has facilitated in your life or in the world or whatever. Because we are attempting to live in alignment with spirit, it does not mean that things won't show up that cause us to feel sad or disappointed or whatever. And so we let our feelings flow through, and then we go back in remembering who we are and whose we are. And we begin to collapse that story that we just created about what happened. And we begin to then reframe that story. But we have to acknowledge our hurt, our pain, and so forth. Otherwise, what we tend to do when we are attempting to be spiritual and live in alignment with spiritual principles, we suppress our feelings because we feel I'm not being spiritual if I say I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel hurt. No, you're not saying you are angry, you are hurt or whatever. You're having a feeling. And so you let that feeling build until you feel it completely, and then you begin to let it leave and give it over to spirit to help to surrender it and to help you reconcile that this person that hurt you or these persons that hurt you, that's your brother or your brothers. And there's only one of us anyway. So in a sense, you know, when someone hurts us, we're hurting ourselves. Mm-hmm. But we do have to allow those feelings, those emotions to move. Otherwise, they will cause illness. They will cause a deeper pain because they have not been released. And so it's important. Well, what we did earlier when we said, you know, we really felt sad. Well, you know, I felt hurt by what happened, what these people did, but I didn't hate them. I loved them anyway, because those are my brothers, and they just were not in their right mind when they did that. And so I have to hold a space for them to return to the way they were with God before the world was, to remember who they are and whose they are. And I have to feel my feelings and then hold that space for them. But it's essential, and I'm saying this, it is essential that we have to feel our feelings, because many, many times people who are new, especially, or any people who are on a spiritual path, if they begin to feel angry or hurt by something that happens, they begin to feel guilty, then I'm not spiritual and I'm not being who I'm meant to be. You feel the feelings and then you let them go and you return to love. All
right. So thank you, Mother. It is important to feel the feelings. And I agree with you 100%, Mother, that I also, a long time ago, was under that illusion that was being, quote unquote, less spiritual. So I know what you're talking about, Mom. I also think it is also just as essential as far as feeling your own feeling. I think it is essential for you to put yourself in other people's shoes so you can experience compassion. Because let me tell you something. Okay, there's certain things that people that may do that you wouldn't do, but there's certain things that you would do that they wouldn't do either. Okay, so there's certain errors that you would, exhibit or display that this same person that you're pointing the finger at, they wouldn't do that either. Okay, so understand, basically put yourself,
you know, in someone else's shoes. I think it's extremely important to understand that we're all dealing with stuff here. We're all learning here, and there's nobody that's better than somebody else.
Absolutely. That's what I meant by collapsing the story. After you let yourself feel your feelings, then you've got to collapse that whole story so that you can get back into that compassion and that oneness with the brother or sister who created some harm. Exactly. Absolutely.
So,
And I
so
think it's
in other words, what I'm saying is sometimes, you know, someone could just be having a bad day. All right. Just like you can have a bad day and you may say certain things that you really didn't really mean to somebody. You could kind of hurt somebody's feelings and things like that. Somebody could say that same thing. They're having a bad day. And, you know, certain things happen. You know, it seems almost as if, you know, maybe Sandy's kind of having a little difficult day today. So, you know, let's just give everybody a pass. Give everybody a pass. Okay.
Or you make amends. Either one. You can make amends.
So, you know, I believe in giving myself a pass. Okay. And as I believe in giving, in other words, not experiencing the anxiety for what I just did, you know, thinking that somehow I've messed up, you know, and somehow that, you know, now I'm not gonna get it. I'm just stupid. I'm just not getting it. Give myself a pass. In other words, let it go. Okay. You know, allow myself to make those mistakes, and the world doesn't come to an end for it. Okay. The world doesn't come to an end for it. Give myself a pass. But again, as I'm saying, as I begin to give myself a pass, then I will become more forgiving and loving towards the world around me. You can't separate yourself from the world that you experience. The same way that you are towards yourself is the same way that you are going to be towards the world. And as you are more loving and more forgiving of yourself, people will begin to energetically feel that loving and forgiving nature that you have, and will be attracted and even drawn to it. So that's what I'm attempting to say. And my mother and I are saying the same things. We're just saying things in kind of like the same or different ways, but we're saying the same thing, you know? So,
You know, that third step in the forgiveness is that I notice my feelings and my judgments, and I love myself for having them. So that's at the same time I'm noticing that I'm doing this, but I'm going to continue to love myself instead of criticizing, condemning, and judging myself, because I slipped away from my spiritual path for a moment and let myself be hurt or upset or angry. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Stephen.
all right. So, I believe that I think Claudia wants to read. And so, Claudia.
Number 7?
Yeah, but I'm going to turn this over towards you because that's where yeah.
Number 7?
Yes, we're on 7, finally.
At God's altar, Christ waits for the restoration of himself in you. God knows his son as holy, blameless as himself, and his approach through the appreciation of his son. Christ waits for your acceptance of him as yourself, and of his wholeness as yours. For Christ is the Son of God, who lives in his Creator and shines with his glory. Christ is the extension of the love and the loveliness of God, as perfect as his Creator and at peace with him.
Okay. All right. So Claudia, what do you get from that?
Sound like a teacher.
Now it says that, you know, that if I just wanted to lead being a teacher, I would say the whole blamelessness. I really want to jump on that. But what does that paragraph speak to you?
I mean, it can so resume what you were saying, you know, and all you were saying about his son as holy, blameless as himself. So through the Christ, we are, you know, like we can restore in love without, you know, any blame, any guilt. and anything like that. So
Mhm.
it is just our acceptance
Okay. All right.
when it comes to.
So are you saying that even if you're saying that, Claudia, that even if you're Donald Trump, you're blameless? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Even Hitler or
So even Donald Trump or Hitler, they're blameless.
yeah.
Okay. I mean that is what it's saying. I don't know.
To God, yes.
Okay.
That consciousness, yes.
So
everybody is.
Okay, so God still sees Donald Trump as blameless.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure, just want to make sure, okay, all right. And I have to start using examples because when people want to start saying, okay, they read this, but they don't connect the dots that, okay, it's also talking about the people that I condemn and point fingers at every day. It's talking about them too. I didn't think Course in Miracles was talking about them too. I didn't think it was talking about them too. I thought it was just talking about like course people, course students. You can tell me it's talking about like, criminals and Donald Trump. Donald Trump of all people? Oh, okay. I gotta rethink this. This.
Stephen, maybe you do, because this is not supposed to be a political forum. And I really love that your president signed an executive order in January that said anybody who has been, that they get for pedophilia, everything will be taken from them and given to their victims. And each year he has been in office, he has freed close to 6,000 children. And in this country, 800,000 children a year go missing.
Okay.
So some of the times I look at TV, I hear what he says, but I've done extensive reading. I've read the Inspector General's report. I know about the Steele dossier, where it came from. Therefore, I knew that the Mueller investigation was not correct. So maybe we're going to have a respectful difference of opinion, but this is for our soul right now, right?
Absolutely. And what you probably didn't get just now, Karen, is I was actually supporting Donald Trump as far as, because there's so many fingers that are pointed at him, by saying that it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. Okay, the bottom line is God still sees you as blameless. So it doesn't matter what the deeds of men are. It doesn't matter what their deeds are, Karen, at all. The point with this paragraph is for people to stop pointing the finger and blaming people. So that's what I was saying. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. I guess I misunderstood. And in that case, what I will say is this: anybody who points one finger at somebody else will find that there's three pointing back at themselves.
Four, actually. Four.
Yeah, probably, depending on how you point, right?
Yeah. Four fingers, unless you don't.
Okay. All right, I gotcha.
Yeah. So that's the point. That's the point we're making here. We don't read Course in Miracles and point fingers and judge here, Karen. So I understand that maybe we haven't talked about Donald Trump, but I like to use examples like Hitler or examples that are controversial examples as teaching methods. So, as you spend time with me, maybe you'll understand it. I like to use controversial people as teaching methods. That's what I like to do. But thank you for bringing that stuff up. All right. So going out to the group. Any other additional interpretations of paragraph 7? You want to talk about blamelessness? Absolutely, because I'm willing to talk about it.
I have a quick comment.
Yes, Bill. What you got?
I love this part right there where it says, Christ waits for your acceptance of him as yourself. That's what the whole course is about till you finally, it's about knowing who you are. There's I forget which lesson it is, but it says, the whole point of this course is to know who you are. And it says that, in another place, whatever path you take, anyway, it all comes down to know thyself. And the only reason we have any kind of experience of anything except perfect peace is when we don't know what we are or who. I don't even like to say who sometimes, because that kind of sounds like a personal entity separate from all the other personal entities in the world. But you know, that thing where it says Christ, it's, you know, when you say Christ, it kind of sounds like one thing there, and I'm over at Christ and you and me and God. And when we really have the experience of what we are, there is no more pain or upset in the mind, you know, that recognizes that, you know. And so anytime anything seemingly in the world trips our trigger, which if I'm honest with myself, happens about 2,000 times a day when I'm paying attention, but I know what to do with it now. You know, the course isn't about not, there's a place, a teacher helped me with this one time. The course says, it doesn't say don't get angry. And you could use any emotion that is anything but peace. It doesn't say that there's anything wrong with getting angry. It just says don't justify it. That means I'm angry because I'm angry or I'm upset because I have forgotten who I am.
Right.
What I am. And when I forget what I am, I forget what God is. Because there's a relation there. You can't know one without the other in truth. And I don't know. I just love it. And every once in a while, you know, a sentence will come along through everything else that kind of jumps right out and it says, Christ waits your acceptance of him as yourself and of his wholeness as yours. Right there. That's all that this book's about, is waiting for your acceptance of Christ as yourself, and to know that. And it gives you 365 lessons to undo all the stuff that's keeping you from that realization.
Absolutely.
Can I add one thing, Stephen, to what Bill just said?
Of course.
It's not just know thyself, but also to thine own self be true.
The true self.
Yep. To their own self be true. Absolutely. And you know, until you begin to really accept yourself, you're not really going to know yourself. I'm gonna say that right now. Until you begin to actually accept every aspect of yourself, you know, and you know, you're really not going to know yourself. Okay, so it's about learning to accept who you are, because who you are is who God created you to be. And you know, there's a very profound thing that you are here to do. But if you don't accept all of who you are, then you're not going to really know what your mission is and purpose here to demonstrate in this world for the rest of humanity is either. So again, it's about, to me, and this is just me, getting back on my soapbox, okay? Again, as I have stated many times, okay, we are all perfect, okay? We are all perfect. The only difference between what we are and what we are experiencing is a dissonance, or based on an idea that we have of ourselves as not being perfect. That's all. That's all it is. We're experiencing a dissonance based on our idea of what perfection is. Okay, based on an egoic idea of what perfection is. And again, as I stated, have many times have stated that there are aspects of you and what you demonstrate in this world that help to serve as teaching devices and lessons for other people who you don't even know. Who you don't even know. You don't even know the impact that you have on the world that you interact with. And I mean an impact as far as for good. You don't even know what type of miracle, what type of living miracle you are. So, you know, that is my whole point with that. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mother, for your interpretations and things like that. Are we ready to move on? All right. Okay, so can you turn that to that so that? Okay, hold on. Go ahead, Dad.
Number 8.
Blessed is the Son of God, whose radiance is of his Father, and whose glory he wills to share as his Father shares it with him. There is no condemnation in the Son, for there is no condemnation in the Father. Sharing the perfect love of the Father, the Son must share what belongs to him, for otherwise he will not know the Father or the Son. Peace be unto you who rest in God, and in whom the whole sonship rests.
All right, Dad, so what do you get from that?
Well, this means to me that you honor your Father as he honors the Son. I don't quite understand this second thing that says, well, the third paragraph says, sharing the perfect love of the Father, the Son must share what belongs to him. Otherwise, he will not know the Father or the Son. Could you shed some light on that sentence for me, please?
Yes, I can, and but I'm gonna pass that out to the group because this is not just Stephen Fleming. This is a group, so I want to pass that off to the group. Does anyone want to elaborate sentence number 3? For sharing the perfect love of the Father, the Son must share what belongs to him, for otherwise he will not know the Father or the Son. Does anyone want to expound on that for my father? Remember, we're all muted, so if you do, just you can unmute yourself. Just unmute yourself. If not, I will go ahead and I will interpret it. Okay, so again, I'm sorry, somebody was about to say something?
Yes, this is Moj.
Hey, Moj.
I'll take the challenge.
All right, okay. All right, Moj.
I would say that, what it says, must share what belongs to him. And I will take that as the love that belongs to him. He must share. And I think that goes back to, every action, whether or not we like it, it's act of love or cry for love. So that's also on the other end, when I'm looking at it as how it comes from my end, is for me to have a checking point to see, can I still love? To see these things as a time of a test of how I am showing as the son or the daughter that I still share what belongs to me, and any action of my own or of others, to know that they're either to have that recognition of, oh, that's the same love that I have, or it is a cry for my love. And if I don't share that, that means I have no clue who I am, or who I belong to.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like it. Thank you, Moj. I also want to add, to condemn yourself, Dad, or to condemn any other person. And by condemnation, I want to also add judgment as well, is to not know the Father.
You know, again, it just in the previous paragraph, they were talking about how, or one of the previous paragraphs that we read, it was talking about how to judge yourself or your brother. You wouldn't, you would think that you're barred from entering into the experience or entering, but you're really not barred. But you would think that you were, because you're not going to experience an experience of love when you place judgment or condemnation on yourself or somebody else. Okay, the experience that you're going to experience that follows that type of act, where it's an act of judgment or condemnation on yourself or someone else, is going to be an experience of not love. And so that's basically the gist of what it's saying. So sharing perfect love of the Father, which is mean without judgment, without condemnation, no matter who it is, no matter what sort of, in other words, not having any prescribed understanding or judgment on someone, or whatever your eyes tell you. Remember, lesson number 1 in the Course in Miracles is I don't know the meaning of anything. So if you don't know the meaning of anything, how can you truly, be equipped to judge somebody for their actions, or judge yourself for things that you think are less than? Okay, if you really don't know the meaning of anything. All right. See, we only think we know the meaning of stuff. And so we think from a standpoint of that we know the meaning of things, that therefore it is within our power to say what is good and what is bad in ourselves or in our brothers and sisters. But that just brings an experience of non-love, is what we manifest for ourselves.
So we withdraw from love, right? Every time that we judge or we condemn, we withdraw from love. So we don't experience love, real love.
Right. Our experience. There you go.
It's not gonna be loving.
Right.
So it doesn't matter that we think that we are right in our physical perception and that person deserves no our forgiveness, blah blah blah. But we are withdrawing from love.
Exactly. And see, love is still there. But your awareness to it, like it was saying, awareness to love's presence, your awareness of it is absent. Love is still there. Love hasn't gone anywhere. Love is everywhere. But at the same time, as truly limitless beings, we can direct our awareness on what we choose to perceive or not. And even though it may not be a conscious directing, when we start focusing on judgment and condemnation, we start turning our attention away from love's presence. Love hasn't gone anywhere, but we don't experience it anymore, or for a time. So, does anybody else want to talk about paragraph 8? We got some time.
Got 2 minutes.
We got some minutes here.
I'll jump in if I may.
Okay.
With regard to what you were just saying, Stephen, there's a clear distinction between a person's character and a person's action. So I think I'm of good character, but sometimes I do stupid stuff. So if somebody wanted to point out to me and say, well, that wasn't very good what you did, I don't take that as an assault on my character. I see that as a judgment of something that my attention was brought to. So there's a distinction there too, maybe.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, Karen, but what A Course in Miracles teaches is that we judge none of that. We don't judge the behavior. We don't judge the person. Okay, everything is love or a call for love. Everything, when it all comes down, Holy Spirit sees love and a call for love. That's all Holy Spirit sees. Okay, so if something seemed like it's unloving, then it was just a call for love. It's a call for love because that person, doesn't perceive love in their own lives. So if a person doesn't perceive love in their own lives, how can they be expected to do loving acts? Okay. If you knew better, you would do better. And that's just the bottom line. So as we begin to love ourselves, we will automatically begin to do better. As we begin to love ourselves, we will there's an inside out healing, which I've said over and over and over and over, but that's okay. Course in Miracles can say about 600-700 times. So I can do it too. I can do it too. So as we love ourselves, there's an inside out healing, and we will begin to do better from a standpoint of a physical manifestation of that love, and people will be able to pick it up. We'll be more loving to people and things like that. But of Course in Miracles is saying basically we don't have a right, no one has a right to judge anybody, whether it's the behavior, whether it's the character, anything else. And so I'm not here to judge anybody's character. I'm not here to judge anybody's behavior. I'm not here to judge any person in the media or person who's, a political figure. My point is no one is to be judged. That is my point.
Okay, I get that, and I'm really trying to understand it because I'm thinking the only example I can think of was when Jesus went to the temple, and I don't know, there were people outside selling stuff or whatever, and he went and he overthrew their table. So clearly he was judging their behavior and what they were doing. So if I saw or I knew of somebody who hurt a child, for example, I'd have to dig really hard in my heart. I understand that I should love that person. That would be a stretch for me at the moment, but I would definitely judge their behavior. Because that does not go with the agape, which is the intuitive love of how things should be. So maybe I'm not very evolved here, Stephen. I don't know.
I'm not, and let me, it's just a process, Karen. Number one, it's not on any person to ascribe anything as far as how things should be. Okay. So, what I am saying, and I'm not here to say that, Jesus didn't do some things out of anger. And it's not about not being human, because Jesus was just being human. But bottom line is the teaching in A Course in Miracles is about we're all dealing with something. We're dealing with different areas of the same story. In other words, we're all dealing with, our own versions of the same challenge, Karen. Okay, so it's not on me, Stephen Fleming, to tell you, Karen, how you should think or how you should be or how you should act or anything like that. Okay, the bottom line is if you knew better, you would do better. And that's for anybody, even the person that hurt a child and stuff like that, or the person that was robbed a bank, or a person that committed an atrocious act against someone else, like a hate crime, like we were talking about, something like that. If you knew better, you would do better. And that's just the bottom line. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to feel my thing or feel my experience, as my mother talks about, as far as like feeling your feelings and stuff like that. But the bottom line is when it all boils down to it, if you knew better, you would do better. So it's not on me to judge where you are from the state of consciousness that you possess currently, because everyone is in an upward spiral. Everyone is in an upward spiral. Everyone is making decisions based on where they are at their present vantage point in consciousness. And as we're continuing to learn through making mistakes and things like that, and as we're continuing to learn and grow from these things that are leading to learning, then we're making different choices and stuff from a new vantage point in consciousness. And so it's not on anybody to ascribe their value or their prescription as far as how someone should be living or thinking or anything like that. So I know it can be a radical concept to some. It definitely can be. It was a radical concept to me at first, you know. So if it's a radical concept to you, I get it. I get it. But everyone is here to learn is the bottom line. No one is better than anybody else. No one is worse than anybody else either. Everyone is here to learn. Everyone's here to grow. We're all here in this asylum. This asylum where we're pointing the fingers, we're going to war, we're doing atrocious things to each other and stuff like that. And there's only one of us, and we're just all in the same asylum to learn and grow and evolve. So, does anybody have anything else they want to add? I see Ziba has a hand raised. Ziba, please unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to say, first of all, we can't make a judgment, period, because we don't know. We don't have all the facts. We don't have a vision that is perfect of things, of what people do, of what happens around us, or in our world. So because of that, we can never make a good judgment, the right judgment. So we can't make a judgment. That's
Absolutely.
one thing.
Absolutely.
And with regards to that act of Jesus that you just mentioned, Karen, how do we know? Maybe it came from God guiding him to do that. Maybe it wasn't from his anger. And I'm not saying, there was something wrong with Jesus being angry or, coming from his own emotions, doing something. All I'm saying is we don't know where that came from, that action.
Thank you.
I wanted to add something real quick. The Course says it's not that you're not telling you not to judge, it's telling you that you cannot judge. Because you don't know. We have this egoic idea that we know everything. The ego thinks it understands everything, and so it makes it's saying that we cannot judge. It's not saying don't judge. We don't know how. We can't. We don't know. That helped me a lot.
Thank you. And you know something? There's a section in the Course in Miracles where it actually talks about, in order to judge, you would have to be acquainted with every ripple in time that led up to the moment in question that you're placing judgment on. And then you'd have to be acquainted with, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it, you have to be acquainted with all of the intentions and everything, all of these different things as far as what people experienced and everything up until that moment. And then you'd also have to be aware of all of the ripples that went from that moment and how they would branch out and impact so many different lives in order to be in a situation where you could judge. And who can do that but Holy Spirit is what Course in Miracles says. So I can find that in our for our next Thursday meeting. But no one is, like Bill was saying, no one is equipped to judge. No one is. And like you said, you don't know, like what Ziba was saying, you don't know what went into everything. You don't know what this person went through and everything that came up until this point, just like we don't know what God has in store as far as, or what may need to be demonstrated. We could have somebody 2,000 years ago could have judged when Jesus was being crucified, but we did not know what would have happened from that crucifixion event 2,000 years ago, and how it was a demonstration of something they didn't know back what was going on. It just seemed like it was bad, and it was something that I'm just using that as an example, just one example. So again, we're not equipped, like Bill's saying, we're not equipped. You know, we don't have all of the sight to go back, how far we need to go back. And we don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years that these certain events, who is it going to impact and how it's going to impact them. So we just don't know. We're not equipped with that.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I do have difficulty. At the beginning, I told you a story of me as a 10-year-old looking at TV. And I judged because what I saw in my heart, I knew was wrong. And, you know, okay, let's bring it up to the current situation. Some talk of, you know, I've heard people say, oh, you know, we can't go back to normal until everybody's vaccinated. Okay, so that's somebody making a judgment. If a group of people who are in power decide everybody has to be vaccinated, you know, as an individual, do you say, well, then that's the way it's supposed to be? Or do you look at a situation, examine it, and make a decision for yourself? So I'm kind of getting a sense from this that we should all sit back and let everything just happen and unfold because we're non-judgmental. But I think that we have to judge and decide what is right.
Where does judgment come from?
That's a good question, Deb. That's a really good question. And I guess it depends in what you believe in. I mean, I think if the light is within us, then there's an intuitive thing that things unfold and that we know. And I mean, I guess maybe different societies are different, different cultures are different. You know, many of us come from different places. But generally speaking, right is right. There is a right, like human rights, for example. We're talking about love, but sometimes we live in an environment where if we don't stand for something, we will fall for anything. And so we need discernment, we need wisdom. And that's where we hope that when it enters into our heart and we come from a place of light and love, and we and our Father are one, we will be guided in wisdom. So while I can accept that sometimes there are people who do very bad things, and actually I can't accept that, I'm still working on it. But I could try to distinguish a person from an action. But to just sit back and say, I'm not going to judge. There's a lot of, you know, if you were going down the street and you saw a child run in front of a car or something, you could just leave it alone, or you could do the right thing and grab the kid and bring it back on the sidewalk. So every day in our lives, we make judgments, we make decisions of how we conduct ourselves. But Deb, that's a good question. And I just feel it's, if there's light in your heart, then you're led, and hopefully you're led and you listen to it. And that's wisdom, that, you know, and that gets back to the collective consciousness. And Stephen, you said earlier that sometimes, you know, you might talk to people and they might say, but it was this way, it was this way. And they expect you to agree with it. And that's what Bill was saying, to know who you are and then stand in your truth. You know, I don't know. I'm
Absolutely.
confused.
And you know something, you know, this has been a wonderful meeting as far as to discuss certain things that, you know, that some people may find, you know, to be uncomfortable. And you know something, I'm so happy that you brought these things up. again, you know, we're running, we're pretty much out of time, but I do want to say this. Whatever it is your truth, is your truth. And it is not on me to attempt to convince you of anything, Karen. Basically, I'm just saying that A Course in Miracles is saying, don't judge yourself. Okay, as far as putting a negative connotation of yourself, and don't judge your brothers and sisters. That's all it's saying. It's not saying sit idly by and just let somebody get hit by a car and things like that. It's not saying those things. Okay, it's just basically saying don't judge yourself. Okay, by putting a negative connotation on yourself, or feeling anxiety because you made a mistake and things like that. Okay, and don't judge other people for those same things, because they make mistakes too. That's all it's saying. It's not talking about let this happen and let that happen and don't do anything. So that's kind of an egoic interpretation that we would have if we want to be in our rightness. Okay.
Okay, I understand that now. Yeah, that was very clear and articulate. I was getting a little confused because while I got that part of it, I was starting to think we're supposed to be very passive people.
No, but we're also not supposed to be, in our rightness. In other words, where we are just basically, where it's I'm right and you're wrong type of mentality. See, that leads to a separate mind. It's not saying to somehow marginalize what you believe in, but at the same time, it's also saying, don't judge other people for what they do. Yeah, that's what it's saying. But we are definitely out of time. So, Mom, looks like Mom had something to say before we close. I'm unmuting you, Mother. I'm unmuting you. Go ahead.
Don't judge other people for what they do. But, however, it is not saying that you have to like what they do. You don't judge the person for doing the thing, but you do not have to like what they do. Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. It does not say like one another or one another's behavior as I have liked yours. No, we do not have to like what somebody does. We only have to love them. We do, but we can say that I don't like what they did, and I'm not going to support that. So
and that's okay.
That's what I've been taught. So.
Thank you. Deb, you have one more thing you want to add?
Yeah, I my journey through judgment, I learned a lot, because for me, looking at another person going, that's wrong, it felt bad.
Yeah.
It just had this weird sensation. And so I moved from judging to observing. I just observe. I don't put a meaning on what that person is doing. I don't, like Reverend Sheila said, it doesn't mean I like it, but I don't judge them, because I also don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Right. I don't know their story. I don't know their background. I know they're beautiful, perfect. I do know that, but I'm observing something that they're doing, and I can't judge it because I don't have the full story, and that feels better. And then that opens you up to I call it the spiritual side of judgment, because I feel judgment is egoic. That's just my personal thing. But I feel the spirit side of judgment is discernment, because my discernment kicks in. And so now I'm able to look at them as a perfect being that is having their own journey and experiencing something or doing something based on a reference point in their life. So I eased out of that as much as I can, because it felt really uncomfortable, especially when it met the metaphysics or Course in Miracles. When I started to move into that space, I could feel how it doesn't feel right to judge.
All right.
It's like I don't have that. So that was my
Mm.
little thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and close this out with a prayer. And this has been definitely a goodie. It's been a goodie, you know?
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it's been a goodie. So I'm going to mute everybody except for the Reverend Sheila Gautreaux, if she wouldn't mind praying us out. And hold on one second. Everybody.
So we come together of one mind, one heart, one body. And we allow gratitude to fill us and overflow, moving out into our experiences, into the world, and allowing gratitude to lead us toward the experience of the kingdom of heaven right here and right now. And knowing that we are the Christ. And through our Christhood, as we walk this planet, as we witness, we are the co-creators of all that is. And allow us to make choices of the highest possibility for us and for all brothers and sisters in all nations everywhere. And may we be reminded continually that we are one with you, beloved presence, and each other. And we walk this together, and we are not alone. And we are grateful for all who joined together tonight to share this course in miracles. And may we stay connected at our hearts until we meet again. And so it is in the name and after the loving nature of our elder brother Way Shower and master teacher Jesus the Christ. And so it is. And together we say, Amen.
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 Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's definitely been a stimulating one. It's definitely been a goodie. Yeah, so I definitely appreciate. I will be watching this video at some point over the weekend. All right,
Debbie,
you
Mac,
guys.
before
Thank
you go,
you.
All
can
right,
you
you
tell me
guys.
the site?
Hey.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye,
you guys.
everybody.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Oh, Deb, you're muted.
Hang on, Stephen. Hang on, Stephen. Hang on, Stephen. Hang on, Stephen. Karen,
Yeah, for Saturday.
can you just drop your email in the chat real quick and I'll send it to you?
All right.
To the
I
chat
don't know
box.
how to do. I don't know how to do that, lady.
What is your email address?
Spirit
Okay.
8160.
Oh, the same as her name on
Yeah.
the on.
Okay.
But at AOL.com.
Okay, I'll send it to you this evening. Thanks.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Stephen.
you guys.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Stephen,
Bye.
thanks so much.
Absolutely, Karen. If you have any questions, I don't know if you have my email, but just send me some questions. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to answer any question you have.
I have to work a few things out in my head, I think.
I'm just letting you know I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, thanks. Hey,
All right.
Zeba. I'll give
Bye.
you
Bye,
send you a
Karen.
text
Zeba.
later.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
Zeba.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
All right.
Stephen. Thanks, everyone.
All right. End meeting.